What's going on, guys? Yogizilla here, aka Yomar Lopez, aka Yogi. Call me whatever you want. I think by now, if you watch my vlogs, you know who I am. I hope you do. Let's get to know. If you don't, let's get to know each other. But today, usually on every Sunday, I do my Geektastic vlog, which is my personal vlog, and then on Mondays I follow it up with the Gang Minute. So today we're gonna do something slightly different. I'm gonna mash them up, which I've done before. And there's a lot of stuff to catch up on because I haven't been vlogging that much. Been traveling and taking care of projects and getting ready for a huge move. And moves are never fun. But what I want to do in the first half, we'll do the Geektastic vlog. And I'm going to share my personal take on Stalker in Atlanta. Hashtag WSC Atlanta. If you check that tag out, you might still see a lot of stuff being sent out on that tag. People are still recovering from the con high. And then the second half, we're going to talk about, stuff on the Geektastic network. That's the Gang Minute half. And we'll talk about schedule changes, some possible interruptions, how my absence, because I'm going to be gone at least a week while I get situated in a new place, how that's going to impact. We'll talk about how that's going to impact the network, what shows will keep going, and what new shows we have, so on and so forth. And on top of that, let's just check in the chat, see if anyone's there. On top of that, we also have Retro Friday, which I haven't been doing as faithfully as I would have liked. So tonight, well, I will talk about that later. That'll be in the second half. So let's jump straight to it. Let's talk about Stalker. I'm gonna put a little music here for you guys. Set the tone. A little background music. That should be good. So, Stalker, let's talk about that. On Horseplay episode 45, I went kind of deep with Obi about how conventions kind of evolve or devolve. Now, to me, a convention is very different from an expo or a conference, right? A conference usually is focused on panels, discussions, very topical. An expo, they're not bad, but like an E3 or a PAX, they're more about consumer vendor relation, or brand consumer relation. So they're about demonstrating things, creating buzz, creating hype, keeping the marketing hype going, stuff like that, right? It's exciting, but when you really break it down, it's just more advertising. And then, when you really think about it, the fact that we're paying for access to that, it's a little funny. Now, convention to me is more about the fans. So, Stalker, to give you a little background, started off as a fan meetup where they expected 1,000 people to show up. And that quickly turned to like 15,000 or 20,000, something like that, according to Eric and James over at the Walker Stalkers podcast. Good guys, by the way. And they poured their heart and soul into this event, and it's grown rapidly because now already they just kicked off. I believe Atlanta is the one that really kicks off the new series of conventions, and in Atlanta, which is the flagship event, they hit 35K. They might even get more in the other ones. I think New York will have a huge turnout, Chicago as well, and possibly Orlando. It started off, Stalker started off as an event for The Walking Dead, but it's now horror. You got zombies. You got the sci-fi, a little bit of everything, a little bit of fantasy, and it's great. The thing about it is, I don't want to sound negative right off the bat, I really enjoyed it. I went there as media. We didn't get as much access as previous conventions, and I understand why. It's grown so big that they gotta prioritize paying customers and VIPs. But the media serves a big purpose because we're working there. We don't have time to enjoy the event as much as we'd like, and we're trying to help bring more people to their fold so they can make more money, essentially. And so other geeks can enjoy the event. And it was kind of a cluster, the way it was all arranged, and it's to be expected because growing pains, right? But here's the thing, people that have gone to previous. This is my first Walker Stalker Con, but I've heard from so many people. It's such a all-access event. It feels like you're right in the mix with the stars and the celebrities. Everybody's so involved. This was just line after line. Everything was monetized. And it didn't feel very personal. So we talked about this during Horseplay Live, our official talk show for the Geektastic network. And a lot of people in the chat were saying, oh, if you think conventions are about the fans, you're mistaken. It's all about the money. I'm not quite that negative on it. I might have this music a little too loud. Make sure. But I understand. This is the thing. As a business person, I work for myself, and it's a struggle. And you're always treading a thin line between doing the things you love, the things you believe in, the things you're passionate in, and trying to make a living. And I don't think they need to be mutually exclusive. But then there's a point where you just say, all right, let's not go excessively to this point where we're just monetizing or trying to get nickel and dime people. That's a bad impression to give folks. And from the folks I interviewed, if you go over to Geektastic, just go over, you go to geektastic.net/videos or youtube.com/Geektastic, the official YouTube channel, and you'll see a video I threw together with some photos and some interviews and a little extra stuff here and there. We got some fan reactions, and people either loved it or they hated it. And some of the people that hated it, actually all the people that I talked to that hated it, had gone to the previous convention. When they saw the stark contrast in the experience, they were not a fan of it. They didn't like the way it's kind of devolving. But people that were first-time goers, they enjoyed it because they didn't have anything to compare it against. So that tells you something. I think with these kind of conventions, you have to really think about, just any kind of event of this scope, you have to think about, even if people get a free pass to get in, the cost of hotel stay, gas, food, all that stuff adds up to hundreds if not thousands of dollars. But then on top of that, people don't want to go into convention broke. They want to get some merchandise, and it's going to be markup on it. It's going to be 2 or 3 times the price of what you get at somewhere else. T-shirts, mugs, whatever you get, hats, hoodies. Then if you're like a hardcore fan and you want the autographs, you want the photo ops, you want to be part of the VIP meet and greets, some of the extra events they do after the main events, after the main conventions. It gets expensive. I met people that got 10 to 25 autographs, and you're talking about $40 to $80 a pop, and that's not considering if they get them certified, or if they get them, if they have to buy a photo to get autographed because they don't have their own. You're talking about 10 times average cost of like $500 and to $1,000 to $1,500 just for autographs. And then photo ops, we're not even gonna talk about that. And the lines were insane. And to me, I love covering these events. I love going to them as a fan and covering them as media. But I feel like more and more, it doesn't matter whether they call it convention or expo or conference. They're all essentially the same thing. It's all about a money grab. Maybe conferences not as much, because they usually, again, they're more focused on panels and the discussions. There were a lot of great panels at Walker Stalker Con. That was my favorite part of it, because for me, if I went there as a fan, waiting an hour to 3 hours to get autographs, making lines, that'll take up the whole day if you do 2 or 3 of those things. And then you can't enjoy meeting the other fans, or just hanging out with people, maybe interviewing people, shaking some hands, exchanging cards. You can't enjoy checking out the vendors and just browsing until you find something that really calls out to you. And that's an opportunity. Not just at Walker Stalker Con, but just in general with conventions. And that's why, me personally, I can't justify the cost of a convention or any of these kind of events. You know, because I'm not that hardcore, and like you can meet famous people all the time, and after you do it enough, it's not that special anymore. I'm more excited about meeting the fans and expanding my circle of friends and my network, and setting up potential partnerships. I was excited about meeting some of the vendors. There was Angie and Chris, who have been on the convention circuit for years. I mean, from what I was talking with them about, I think they've been on the circuit for like 20 plus years, and they've said it themselves that it's gone from being geeky events to just being commercialized crap. And here's the thing: if you're gonna have vendors come up, don't make them a side attraction. Give them a chance to really sell. Now, some vendors did sell a lot of stuff, and they were pretty busy. But most of the vendors I talked to said that they made far less in WalkerStar than they did in other conventions, and it's no surprise. They had back-to-back panels scheduled in the main event hall, the main panel hall, which was huge. And I got photos of that up on YouTube in a little slideshow along with the audio aspects that I have, the interviews and whatnot. And then they had a convention hall panel room, which is much smaller, but they have stuff scheduled back to back to back, and it was hard to choose because there was so much good stuff. But sometimes you need that little buffer space to, you know, take a potty break, maybe go out, have a nice chill lunch and not feel like you're rushing. I mean, talking about 6 to 9 hours of the event time. That seems like a lot, but if you really want to take it all in, it goes by super fast. So the vendors were saying that, you know, that it wasn't really worth it for them to pay for a booth. They were barely making back their costs in some cases. And these are like some really cool vendors that have unique items. I was very happy to see that it was not just The Walking Dead. There were fans of Naruto there, Doctor Who, Star Wars, and you saw representation of that stuff in the merchandise. If you're into vampires, Vampire Diaries had a little bit of representation. Not that much merchandise, but they did have a panel on Sunday. It felt like that was just kind of tacked on, just having them come in, because there was no merchandise resounding what they had. So, you know, here's the thing, and people were saying, you know, you guys should do a convention with Geeky Antics. That might have to be a Kickstarter coming up. I would love to do something as a network, and you know, some folks, Andy for example, Yogizilla was saying that it'd be a good idea to do it as a non-profit. There's nothing wrong with making profit. It's just you gotta not be too greedy with it, and make it so that people have enough money after they get a couple of autographs or get some of the premium event access, that they have still time to go to the vendors and spread that money. Because then everybody feels like it's worth their time. And the vendors are fun. They talk to you. They know their products. They have unique things. There was a lot of artists that were putting together fan art, commissioned work, posters, all kinds of neat stuff. And it was great, but it felt like everybody was playing tug of war to get attention. They did set it up well. When you went into, by the way, at WalkerStar Con Atlanta, which is what I'm talking about, it was done in America's Mart Building 2. Beautiful, beautiful event space. They might have to move over to Building 1 next time, because that's the bigger space apparently. But I liked it. It did feel like everything was close together. It was tightly knit. Not elbow upon elbow. Saturday was pretty crazy, but that was to be expected. Usually in a 3-day event, the second day is the busiest, and then, like, you know, the first day everybody's kind of taking the time, and it's much more than relaxed, and then Sunday is winding down. Friday was the most relaxed day, I would say, because people are still at work and they can't take time off or whatever. And then Sunday people are kind of doing mad dash, last minute purchases and everything. But, you know, Friday was so chill. I should have taken advantage of Friday more, because they weren't as busy at all, and, you know, you could have just walked up to a lot of people and talked. The lines were much shorter. Saturday, once Norman Reedus and Andrew Lincoln were there, oh my goodness, it was crazy. Again, to be expected. But to me, the main draw of conventions are the more intimate encounters. I like the panels personally. And the vendors were saying they don't like autograph events because it just takes everyone away from the other spaces, and it makes it less exciting, less worthwhile to go into, you know, these other areas and do other things. So I get that, and I'm rambling on, I know. In the second half, we'll talk about what my vision of a better convention is, because that's more network related. But again, this is my personal take on Walker Stalker Con. Overall, it was a great event. I'm so happy for Eric and James. I mean, it's not like they didn't have money to begin with. These guys have their own careers, and podcasting is something they do for fun. But obviously now, I mean, they could do this on a full-time basis and live off of it. I mean, 35,000 people. If you figure the average person is spending, you know, let's say they're just spending 200, right? When you all weigh it out, you're talking about, you know, lots of money there. You're talking about in the area of $1 million in revenue. So that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say put it at that. And then, you know, there's lots of middlemen they gotta pay off. They gotta pay for the event space. Event space surprisingly isn't that much money. You could pay that off much easier than people think. But you know, then celebrities, I'm sure, were taking and the managers were taking the proceeds from the autographs, almost 100%, I'm sure, or at least a major portion of it, because apparently that pricing was determined by the agents and the managers. So I understand what's, you know, I see what's going on there. It's that, you know, people wanted to dump on Eric and James and the rest of the organizers of Walker Stalker Con, but you know, it's the management, you know, the celebrities and their, you know, their managers and their agents making the decisions, and then AMC also limited access to the media and the fans overall, the fan community overall. I mean, whether you're media or you're a paying customer, we're fans too, and sharing that excitement, making this as much as possible. Let's put it like this. It should be, these conventions should be an opportunity to create stories and share stories. It was not exciting to someone, oh, I stood online for 3 hours and got Andrew Lincoln's autograph. But it is exciting to say, hey, we hung out, we all danced, and Andrew Lincoln was there, Norman Reedus was there, and we were just hanging out. You know, I know it can be crazy if you do that kind of stuff, but that's the way the first, you know, chain of Walker Stalker cons were. And people were reminiscing about that and said this is completely different. It was just so badly organized. They had so many volunteers. I think they had like 350 volunteers, I think they said. I don't think it was that many. I mean, that's insane. Whether it was 35 or 350, they had a lot of people working there. You know, the green shirts, as we call them. They're volunteering. Now, mind you, they got a good amount of access. And then there were the core staff members, which weren't that many. They had all access. More access than media. Again, I'm not salty about it. I get why there needs to be boundaries, because otherwise it'd be a madhouse. And then, you know, someone sees someone cut line, or, you know, interview someone or do something, and they're like, well, I could do that too then, you know. I mean, there's people they were paying $1,200 for a VIP pass. That's the platinum level. Kind of crazy, but I'm going somewhere with this, I'm sure. But I mean, they're trying to. So yeah, the volunteers. The problem with the volunteers. Let's talk about that. People were trying to blame the volunteers, saying they messed up the event. You had people that didn't know anything. They were giving the wrong information, or they were overdoing their job and just leaving a bad taste in everyone's mouth. But the thing is, even with orientation and training, information can only be disseminated so well, right? So much. And they probably could have done a better job disseminating that information and setting up a chain of command so that there was a consistent feel. Because, I mean, even when we were covering the panel, that's what I focused on. And I took copious notes. I think is my notebook over here? No, I have it still in my bag somewhere. I'm still catching up from after. I mean, it's been less than a week since I've returned. And then I got a move coming up. But, the thing is, even with the panels, I would ask, hey, what is the designated area for media? Before, media was able to sit in the front area, but I was strict to the VIP. But they had us sitting in nosebleed. It's like you can't even snap photos from there unless you have a really good telephoto lens. And you know, I traveled light. I didn't bring a lot of equipment with me because I didn't want to be tied down too much. But yeah, if you're like trying to take photos and you don't have a really good lens, good luck. They had, you know, media going all the way back, and I felt bad for just people that were general admission. It was like we were the redheaded stepchildren. And again, I understand why that exists, and you have to have that separation, you know, to some degree. Again, when I talked to the vendors, they didn't like that. You know, having the distinction of VIPs versus general admission. When you do too much of that, it just tells people that they don't matter unless they spend a lot of money. That's a bad message to give. I think the only time there should be a distinction there is when there's things where there's greater access and greater risk by having overbooking. And it did feel, a lot of people noticed this, they did feel like they overbooked some of the stuff, especially the VIP passes. Because, I mean, it was only supposed to be limited quantities, and I felt like they oversold that stuff. And they kept taking people coming in, walking in, and buying tickets at the door. So it got crazy. You know, that's kind of an oversight. And the vendor said, you know, that a lot of the vendors I talked to said that, you know, it sucks because you have people that come in and are genuinely excited about it. They want to tell their friends about it, but they can't because they feel like, oh, if you don't have tons of disposable income or you don't save up for this for a year, you're not going to get the full experience. I feel that it should be a great experience for people that are paying very little and for people that are doing the premium stuff. Everybody should have great stories to share, and everybody should be equally excited. Obviously, the hardcore people, they're going to want to spend the money because they can. I bumped into a guy that he goes to Sonoya all the time, even when the cons are not in town. And he knows Carrie at the official Walking Dead store. And he's bought the pinball machine, which was like $6K right there. He's bought tons of figures and signed stuff. He tells me, oh yeah, I buy this for like $100. I could resell it for $300 or $400 if I want to, or I could sit on it and wait till the value increases. And he's hardcore. And a hardcore fan did not enjoy the convention. He didn't even go to the last day, which was sad. The last day, my favorite part about it. So let me stop dissecting it so much. Let me talk more as a fan instead of media and as a business person. I loved meeting people after hours, after the events, the fans, the celebrities. They were just so cool when everything was chilling out. We met Scott Wilson, Travis Love, Parker, aka Asthma Boy, aka Noah. Tons of people, and they were so cool when things were less hectic. And I get that. That's kind of how you expect it to be, because there needs to be some structure during the main event, or else no one will ever get their turn, right? But Howard Sherman was an amazing guy, by the way. I want to put that out there. And you know what? Shoutouts to Dimitri. Dimitri's paintings are painted by Dimitri. Good guy. Judd from Starbase 1552, I believe his company is. Awesome collectibles from Doctor Who, The Walking Dead, tons of comics, all kinds of cool stuff. Unlikely Heroes, good people. John and Leanne from Pittsburgh. Who else? Cindy and Matt from Chi-Town, Chicago. Great people. We hung out Sunday night, late night, and it was awesome. We have Travis and Amanda. I believe they're from Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. They drove down, and they were awesome people. They didn't go to Sunday either, and Sunday was great because Sunday night we did the live viewings of the season premiere of Season 5 of The Walking Dead, and then we saw episode 2, and we got the instant reaction. Then we did the live podcast with the Walker Stalkers and the Walking Dead cast, if I'm not mistaken. I listened more to the Walking Stalkers and not the Walking Dead cast. I had actually never heard of it. Sorry. But it was awesome, and as a podcast that excited me, just being there, watching them do their thing, and it was just a pure experience. So much fun. The after events, the mixers, meeting up with my friends from ZombieCast, Matt Bradford, Sean Freeman, Ted Bracewell, aka Tedekin, and their wives. Well, Tedekin not married, but you know, Matt and Sean's wives, and Sean and Angie's kid Ashton, really cool kid. It was just that was fun. We went to Sonoya on Saturday. It was just too hectic, and we had to get out of there. So we went there around 4 or 5 p.m. after some of the big panels. Unfortunately, we missed Emily Kinney's concert. That's something I did want to cover. And we missed the Zombie Bash. But, you know, I think at that point we were all kind of feeling like, man, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, but at the end of the day, unless you're dropping big money, it's not really that fun. And that was kind of our consensus as media. We did take some good photos. We did have some great moments, but it wasn't within the infrastructure really of the event. It was kind of the things that we made happen. Me personally, I didn't set up that many appointments because I wanted to enjoy it more as a fan and report back the fan experience, and I hope I've done a good job of that. So yeah, I would say if you go to Rockstar Con, try to come in on Thursday, pick up your badges early so you're relaxed. You know, Friday, take advantage of Friday. That's when you want to meet people, take time, you know, set up interviews or do some handshaking. Saturday's insane. That's going to be purely making lines or going to big panels. And Sunday winds down a bit, but you know, Friday, the start of the events are usually pretty chill. And since Atlanta is the flagship event, I reckon Chicago, Orlando, or all the other locations won't be as bad. I heard Toronto wasn't that great. Some people were saying that it was a bit of a mess, which is a shame. Toronto, you know, that's a big market. New York might be crazy too, because you know it's within walking distance and dense population, and you know you got that hub of a city that's in between so many states that people can drive to or take mass transportation to. So New York's gonna probably be crazy. It might be crazy in Atlanta, so we'll see. I'd like to make it out there, but December is just too soon. I wish they spaced out the major cities a little further to give us media a chance to, and even the fans, just a chance to recover. But those are my main thoughts there. I'm gonna probably do a write-up on this to accompany this video on Monday, which is what, October 27th? Yes. Definitely sometime this week, and I already have the little video I did on YouTube. If you want to check out some of the fan reactions there, you get a taste of what we did. It was really fun. I don't want to take away anything from Eric and James. I know at conventions, just from talking to people in the industry, I know I have enough experience with you know, even just volunteering them, helping coordinate them on a lower level, that it's hard. There's a lot of things you got to do, a lot of people you got to reach out to, a lot of things you got to coordinate, you got to maintain the order. You can't be everywhere at once. So Eric and James, thank you for bringing us a really worthwhile convention. I would say Walking Stalker Con is still one of the more warmer, intimate events, and it's still worthwhile, much more so than a Dragon Con or Comic Con, because those events are so huge and commercialized that it's just overwhelming. You know, there's so much stuff going on, and everything costs money. I was talking to another vendor, and they're saying the Dragon Con has become the worst because the main guy that sets up the event, he brings in tons of money, and everything is monetized. I think to get in there now, it's like $120 a head, and there's so much stuff that anything that could be given a price tag, they put a price tag on it. That's kind of a shame. But again, you know, that's kind of what happens when things grow big. People kind of lose their way along the way. I hope Walking Star Con stays an intimate and really fan-focused event. I do give them kudos. They gave the fans priority over media, but at the same time, we have to remember that the fans, you know, the media, a lot of the media outlets, a lot of media representatives are fans. So you could take it different ways. You could say, oh, they're just prioritizing them because they pay money and they want more money. So negative, salty people. It's worthwhile. Check it out, but keep in mind, you want to have at least, you know, $200-300 in pocket after your expenses to at least enjoy some of what's to offer. Because there's so many great vendors. It's just a shame to me to hear vendors say that it's not worthwhile for them to do it. It's like, well, what's the point of buying a booth if you're not going to get the foot traffic, you're not going to get the business, or get your name out there at least. So that might need to be fixed. They did make it smart. When you walked in, there was vendors front-loaded, and then the autograph stuff was towards the back, you know, all the time. The first floor was like that, vendors, then autograph areas. Then the second floor was vendors and autograph areas. And then the third floor was a huge panel room where we also watched The Walking Dead live. And we also enjoyed some of the AMC Fear Fest, which is really cool. And then that's pretty much it. Only 3 floors. Oh no, I'm lying. The 4th floor was the photo ops area, and then staff meeting rooms, and they had little interview areas set up too, little private areas. So it was really cool how they set that up. I can't wait to go. I really want to go to another one soon. But gosh, just going out, it was tiring being on your feet and just running around. Again, so much stuff going on. But let's move on. So this